So we're at Bay 101,
Okay.
235,
Mhm.
and it's eight-handed.
235 with two on the button, by the way, right?
Yeah.
As I say, I always forget when I play in the Bay Area. Fold my button that we're already in for two on the button. Really, one of the only places that I know of that has that blind on the button. I don't know why
Yeah.
why they started that, but
And Matrix and Lucky Chances too.
yep. Okay. So is this the deep stack game or is it 1500
No,
cap
it's
or
just
something?
regular 235.
So what's the cap in it? Is there a cap?
800.
800. Okay. And what are the effective stacks here?
2000.
2000. Okay. Pretty good. Okay.
All right. So there's a $10 straddle. MP1 calls, MP2 calls. The cutoff, which is the main villain, he calls. The button calls. The small blind calls. And I'm on the big blind with ace of hearts, three of clubs.
Ace of hearts, three of clubs, and you check or you complete, I assume?
Yeah, I complete.
Okay. So you complete for whatever, five, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the straddler, he checks.
So straddled pot, and it looks like it's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven ways. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. So 70 bucks in there minus the
Yep.
drop. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I typically wouldn't flat ace three if it was a regular pot, but given how multi-way it is, $5 to call.
I mean, you're getting like what, 13 to 1 here. I don't think anyone's going to get on you about completing for five here. You know, just something slight. You can make some straights with ace three as opposed to like ace six or something like that, right?
Yeah, or trip threes.
Yeah. Okay.
So the flop.
Mm-hmm.
So the flop is ace of clubs,
Mm-hmm.
ace of spades,
Mm-hmm.
six of diamonds.
So you flop trips. Now, there's no draw out there. And what I used to say, and again, it's like one of these things that is probably still relevant at the smaller stakes. Maybe not on an ace high board. Here's the thing about this. Here's the thing about the difference between you flopping trips with ace three on ace 6 versus you flopping trips with like 9-6 on like 9-9-4. Why would I want to play this defensively as opposed to me maybe leading out with 9-6 on 9-9-4?
Because you'll be outkicked.
Well, yes, because people play ace X in these games, right? So it's more likely if a lot of players are playing a lot of ace X, even ace X off, then it's more, and you have the worst kicker, it's actually way more likely that somebody else has trips here on this board than when you have 9-6 in this spot on 9-9-4, because people aren't playing, 9-4 offsuit, 9-5 offsuit, and they are playing ace 5, right? Things like that. So, but what I was going to say is that back in the day, if you ever flopped anything, because there were many, many limp pots back in the day, if you ever flopped trips, you just win the maximum by leading as opposed to check raising because no one ever believed you. But I can certainly get on board here with the check, see what's going on, and you'd be checking everything else here too. So,
Yeah. So I do end up checking, and it checks around seven ways.
okay.
In the turn brings the jack of clubs,
Okay.
and I check again.
So backdoor club draw. Ace of clubs, ace of spades, six of diamonds, jack of clubs. So why did you decide to check here again?
It's seven ways. It brings in the backdoor club draws, some combo draws out there, and I could also be outkicked, like a slow played ace X still.
So
So
are you ever looking to check raise the turn here, or are you still playing it defensively?
I'm still playing it defensively at this point.
The only thing I would say though, and yes, obviously somebody can easily be sandbagging an ace, right? But again, I feel like betting here, you're going to get called by a lot of hands that are inferior when the backdoor club comes in, when there's Broadway straight draws, and then when somebody might call with a jack. You don't have to go crazy. You can go 25-30. The reason why I like more of a bet here is because a jack will just and flush draws, combo draws will just be happy to. I think they'll be content to continue to check through when it's ultra multi-way because they'll think that someone's sandbagging them and they don't want to get raised. So it's a unique little spot where a lot of these hands that might take a protection bet or a semi-bluff bet still aren't going to because of the nature of the hand, but you'll get called if you bet. So that's why I would probably come out and bet now 25-30. Now, if you get raised, you can evaluate it. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
so here are checks, okay?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And it checks to the villain in the cutoff who makes it pot. He bets 70.
Wow, okay. That's interesting.
The button folds, small blind folds, and I flat.
Well, I think as played against 70, I would probably call. So hero calls. And then does everyone else fold?
Yeah. Regarding the pot size bet, I didn't give too much credence to it being 100% pot size, just because it's multi-way. And I'm looking more at the absolute number, like 70. I think at 70s, like below 100, I don't really consider like the pot size to mean that much. If it was like, $200 and he bet 150, that would be a little different.
Yes, I mean, I think, well, you're echoing what I say, but you had said it was because of multi-way. It's just because the pot's small, right? So at these levels, like full pot size bets, when the pot's small, it's not the same like as, oh, his hand strength is worth a full pot size bet. And then when you get larger, when the pot gets really large for the game, you flip that around, and when someone bets like 500 into 1,000, that's usually a much stronger hand than 50%, right, of the pot bet. So it's just that the pot's small. Just like when someone bets 20 into 15. It's like, oh, they overbet. He's polar. He bet 20 into 15 right on the flop. No, not really. So, all right. So 210 to the river. Yep.
The river is the 4 of clubs, bringing in the black backdoor flush.
Oh, interesting. You have ace of hearts, 3 of clubs, by the way, in your hand. The ace of clubs is out there. Okay.
And I begin with the check. I lead out for 100. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, yeah, you unless you told me something different in the email, you did not begin with a check because this is where the hand goes off the rails. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this question. When the guy bets the turn for this type of sizing, what do you think his range is here?
So I think he could have a jack. Like some people at these stakes, they might feel emboldened, especially in late position, when it's checked to them twice to, protect their jack, something like that. He could also have backdoor clubs, which he would definitely bet for value, more than 100. So this was more of a blocker bet. I know it's a half size pot bet, but I don't know. I kind of, in my head, it was more of a blocker bet.
Yeah, but I'm gonna take a couple of exceptions from what you're saying here. First of all, even though the pot is small, we just talked about that, and even though he's betting 70-70, I still think that you can still take something away where he wouldn't actually bet that amount that much with just a jack. I mean, I know that everyone's checked to him again. I mean, I understand that, but I still think that people are a little bit cautious. Now, with that being said, though, even if he were to have Jack X here and bet 70, when you call his bet, what do you have when you call his bet on the turn?
I could have those backdoor flushes, I guess.
Well, you could have the backdoor flush draw, right? Or you could have an ace. So when you come out and lead here for 100, it just doesn't seem, it seems insane. You look so strong that you're almost over-repping your hand here by betting with the worst ace when the club comes. If you're trying to, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're trying to say target, if you think he's got a jack here, I don't even think that he can call you. I think this is really a check evaluate here. This is one of these spots where once you call his 70 on the turn and you're like, well, he can have, with his sizing, maybe sometimes he'll have a jack, hopefully. He could have been sandbagging an ace on the flop, and now he's trying to protect. That's part of his range too, right? Or he could be betting backdoor clubs, right? So if that's his range, then you're just, what I would do here on the river is for the most part check fold. I would plan on check folding to any reasonable sizing. And it doesn't mean that you're going to lose because a jack will check behind. So you'll win if it goes check, check. You probably won't even be taken for value with a hand like ace 8 or ace 9. Those will be checked behind too. But I can't get on board with betting here to get called by a jack. I mean, I think the play is to check.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was just one of those things where, at the time, um, I thought this kind of player would go for value with a mediocre ace, and put in some raises with flushes. So what ended up happening was he min raises me
Wait a
to
minute. What did
$200.
you say? He would go for value with the mediocre ace
Yeah,
and then put
yeah,
in some
that's
raises.
what I thought
So
at the
what is
time.
that? If he would go for value with a mediocre ace and then would put in some raises with flushes. So why are we betting here?
As a blocker, like I didn't want to end up having to call, like $200 or
But
whatever he
why
would
can't
end
you
up
check
doing.
fold
So,
though? If his range is a jack, a backdoor flush draw, or some aces that'll take you for that are better than yours for value, why can't you just check and fold?
yeah, I guess that's where the punt comes in, I guess.
Well, sometimes people don't understand. The whole blocker bet thing is somewhat conflated. Like you have to be able to get called by worse in order for a blocker bet to be, to be the play in a certain situation. So, okay, so you bet 100. Okay.
Yeah. And then he ends up min clicking it to 200.
Cut off min raises to 200. Well, so what does he have? What do you think that he has here?
Yeah, so I squarely put him on a flush here for this sizing. Like I seem pretty strong. Like it looks like I have at least a strong ace, maybe like a flush. And then when he min clicks me for that sizing, it just seemed like, a flush to me. Like he didn't
So,
want to put in too much money without a full house.
mhm.
So that min click kind of smelled like a flush.
So you think he's got like the king high flush or something like that?
Yeah, king or queen high.
Okay. I mean, I can sort of get on board with that. The only thing that I will say though is that I got to be perfectly honest with you. Like, again, it's hard for me. How would I get in this spot? How would I? And I'm not expecting people necessarily to know this at this specific level. But if you really think about it, though, let's say that I was the guy in the cutoff and I had over limped with some hand that just wasn't good enough to raise, right? Like, I don't know, I over limp with like king 8 of clubs or king 7 of clubs or something like that because of the crazy nature of the game, right? Now, and let's say that it gets checked around on the flop. And now on the turn, I bet on the come, right? I bet my king high flush draw, okay? And you call. And on the river, you lead here for 100. Even though I like to try to extract the most amount of value, I don't even know if I would raise here. And I certainly wouldn't raise with anything but the king high flush. And the reason why is because your line is just so strong. If everyone else is folded and I'm holding a flush and you check call turn and then lead river, I think that the majority of your hands are boats here, to be honest with you. I don't even know if I raise here that much with a flush, and definitely not the non-king high flush here. That's just one thing that I'm saying. I mean, it's possible, but you just got to understand how strong you look here in this particular spot. So, I mean, you never have the best hand here.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought. Like I'm never calling, even though I have trips. Like relatively speaking, like my hand is no good at this point. So I decided to take a rather crazy line and three bet him on the river to $800. My thinking,
You were blocking the river, and now you're turning your hand into a bluff versus a min raise. Bet 3 bets, hero 3 bets to 800. Is that right? 800? I mean, I'll go back to what I just said. I think that you might be running into some boats here more than you think. I don't know how often a flush is racing you here. I got to be honest with you. And if it just is the king high flush that raises, I still don't even know if guys are good enough to fold that down. I mean, just to boil it down, like in general, I got to say that, I mean, I understand. It's interesting what I say, right? Because you look so strong that flushes shouldn't even raise. So when you three bet the river, you look unbelievably strong. That's true. And if I was the cutoff and I min raised, the king high flush playing to raise fold, then this would probably work against me, but I wouldn't advise it against the general player pool. And it wouldn't surprise me if this guy has a boat here more than you think.
Yeah, I think I have more boats than him, given I'm in early position. I think I have more ace six, ace jack, ace four than the villain here. I think the only, I mean, I guess he can have boats too, but given how already strong I look, I just feel like a three bet on the river like just gets most regs to fold their flushes. So
You think you have more boats than him? Because what you mean in the form? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Why? Because he would always raise ace jack over people. You mean in pocket?
yeah, like
But
he
you're
could,
gonna
like
raise pocket jacks, right? I mean, he's gonna over limp with sixes.
yeah, I'm not saying I ever have pocket sixes, jacks or fours here, but like ace six, ace jack, ace four.
I mean, but he could have all those hands though too, right? I mean, the only thing that would just be a little bit less would be maybe he raises some ace jacks. But I mean, I've seen guys limp along here with ace jack off. This guy's on the cutoff after two. I just don't think that that's a huge thing to consider here. I mean, you certainly look strong with this play, but really what it boils down to is that is somebody capable of raise folding? And again, my contention here is that is he even raising a flush here?
Yeah, I thought he would. Um, so should I reveal what happens?
Yes, please do.
He
Please
ends up
do.
tanking for about a minute, and he puts in the call, and he's got pocket sixes.
Ah, for the boat.
So he flopped the boat. He
But
checked the turn, the flop.
Brian, but I just want you to again sort of get on board with my thinking here is that the reason why a good chunk of the reason why I wouldn't make this play is because I think that your opponent has a lot of boats here. That he's actually not raising that much with a flush because you look so strong by your check call of the pot size bet and then lead river that when he does raise, he's actually stronger than I think what you perceived at the time.
Yeah,
Because because you look so strong. So that's why I would not go the extra step then. I know you look strong, but I would not go the extra step and then try to raise somebody off of like primarily boats. Now, would he main click the king high flush and then fold to a raise? I don't even know if guys would be capable of doing that, right? So, but as an interesting one, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.